relationship between the board chair and the CEO and what that means for fundraising. Hi, I'm Bill Stanczykiewicz. This is the first day from the fundraising school, and I'm joined today by Martin Georgi. He is the board chair of the German Fundraising Association. And Martin, what a delight to have you with us from Europe on the Fundraising Schools podcast. Thanks for being with us.
Any chance to get a good tea, I'm ready for it.
Well, Martin is absolutely one of the most fascinating people I've had an opportunity to meet in my international work for the fundraising school. Born and raised in the United States, he's lived in Massachusetts, he's lived in California, so he knows all the U.S. jokes and U.S. idioms, but now resides in the land of his heritage, Germany, and travels across Europe, strengthening the philanthropic sector. And Martin, when I've had a chance to talk with you in the past, there is a wonderful story with the German Fundraising Association, which is a highly impactful organization now, but has gone through a lot of rebuilding in the last decade or so. And the vibrancy of the board has played a role in that. Can you help our audience understand that story, please?
Well, to be quite frank, the Fundraising Association arose out of a network of fundraisers who wanted to get together and learn from each other and so on, and it was an auspicious beginning, but then sort of the organizational side became a bit mired in boredom, I would say, and lack of professionalism, and also a lot of infighting, a lot of power playing and so on. And being a good fundraiser doesn't necessarily mean that you're a good board chair or a board member or a good CEO for that matter. So we did have some issues there, and the organization was struggling along, not very effective. And I think the key thing was not so much finding the right board, but actually finding a good CEO. And finding a good CEO is, as we all know, one of the key and most important tasks of the board. I actually didn't do that at the time, but I was able to invited to join the board. And then we managed to really develop something out of the organization over the past years.
You're a talented leader. You have plenty to keep you busy. Why did you agree to join the board of the German Fundraising Association?
Well, I was kicked, coaxed, pushed, and pulled until I finally said yes. I didn't really want to do it because I thought, oh my God, do I really need to do this? And yes, it took some persuasion. And I think it's a lot about the P's. Being persuaded to do something is quite important. And I did have a joint purpose and perspective with the CEO and with some of the members of the board. And I think that's quite important, that you have a joint outlook on life, on the mission, and what you're trying to do. And that then leads to trust and mutual respect. And I think that's really the key to everything.
What is that joint purpose? Where Larissa, the CEO, who we'll talk about more in a moment here, but the other board members, those who were talking with you, what is that joint purpose where you said, oh, that's my heartbeat. They know me. Yes, I'm going to join this board.
Well, actually, rolling up our sleeves and making sure that fundraising improves in Germany, to put it on a new level, that I think was the key thing, but also seeing fundraising not so much just as a technique and as a technology or as a method, but seeing fundraising as a contribution to a better social work and a better society. So in that sense of having the fundraising aspect of changing society, I think, was what drew us together and helped us to look beyond just improving fundraising, but actually doing something for civil society.
And in our board engagement with fundraising course at the fundraising school, we point out the research confirms Martin's story here, that the number one aspect we need to be looking for when recruiting board members is not their fame, their wealth, their social standing. It's their passion for our mission. And when they have that passion for our mission, everything else tends to fall into place. And that is certainly Martin's story as he joined the board of the German Fundraising Association, which he now chairs. And one of the top responsibilities of the board is hiring an outstanding CEO. And Larissa Probst is the incredible CEO of GFA. And, Martin, can you talk about that important role that the board has that nobody else has to make sure we have the right person in that top seat in the organization?
Yeah, I think that's really one of the key. There are two or three real key roles of the board. One of the key ones is finding the right CEO. making sure that the CEO fits to the organization, fits to the mission, and that the board then is able not just to choose the CEO, but then actually to work with the CEO and to help the CEO develop and improve the work. So you have to be able to work with someone. You have to be able to enjoy working with someone. You have to be able to work on the joint purpose and joint mission. And you have to have a hard look at what the organization really needs. And you also have to be a bit careful to not just replicate yourself, because you might think of doing things in a certain way, but you need to be a bit humble maybe, and also a bit circumspect to look at what is really needed for the organization. It might not be the same type of person as yourself. So in our case, the CEO is much younger than me. She's a woman. I didn't actually choose her. She chose me as the board chair, if you want to, because I came in when she had just been appointed. But it is important to have that diversity also of approach in a board, because that makes you stronger. If you have people with different life experiences, different ages, different genders, different skills. Quite honestly, not everyone is good at everything. Not even good CEOs are not good at everything. So it's important to be able to help each other, to work with each other, and to support each other also with different skills at different times.
Martin, I really appreciate your wonderful description of the importance of diversity, not for the sake of diversity, but for the way it strengthens the board's work. And again, in our teaching, we talk about we want boards to make a well-informed decision. Well, the best way to make a well-informed decision is to be well-informed. And the best way to be well-informed is have a lot of different perspectives from a lot of different backgrounds. And it could be our personal demographics, our profession, our interests, and just any way that we can be defined coming together at that board table. So tell us, what does this...
Quite honestly, it goes one step further. It's not just the right chair or the right CEO. It's, as you were saying, it's finding the right mix of board members as well, who will add different perspectives and different experiences. Because I've been involved with organizations forever, since my youth, but I also don't know everything, and I'm not good at everything. So I try to also find some people on the board who can do certain things that I'm not good at. And the same goes for staff. Even a good CEO has certain things they don't like to do or don't want to do or can't do, then they need good staff to support them. And I think that mix is what is important. That mix keeps the organization running. And in terms of the relationship between the board chair and the CEO, that's a relationship, I've had many different experiences of that relationship on both sides. I've been board chair in many organizations, and I've also been CEO in several organizations. And it doesn't always work out well, because you have board chairs who put on a lot of pressure, which is not really good, particularly if you have a high-performing CEO. You don't want to put too much pressure on them, but you might want a little bit of that kind of of nudging and occasional question. I think I've learned really that asking questions is the best way of leadership. Don't tell people what they should do, but ask them a question. How are we going to solve this and this problem next year? Or do you have any ideas of how we could, that's a much better way of telling someone what you feel they should be doing than say, I want you to prepare this by next Monday. That's not the good way between a chair and a board. And you also, on the other hand, you have to have a bit of patience, because I've been preaching certain ideas and things that I want to have done. And sometimes it takes time. It takes 2 years, 3 years, 4 years sometimes to have something done. So one thing you experienced when you came to our General Assembly and to our conference was that we had international translation for the first time. But that took about 3 or 4 years to get started. So you have to have patience.
Well, yeah, and for which I was grateful to help better understand the wonderful content at that awesome event in Berlin. Martin, let me ask you then, what does the day-to-day relationship or the month-to-month or the year-to-year relationship look like between the board chair and the CEO? Are you establishing the agenda? Are you, as the board chair for the board meetings, are you doing that together with the CEO? Who leads the meetings? How does the CEO stay in touch with you in between meetings? What are some of those operational practices that you're seeing that are so successful at the German Fundraising Association that you would recommend to the rest of us?
Well, I'm a traditional on one point, that I think a weekly brief meeting is quite useful. We don't always have it because sometimes we're too busy, but we have a Monday lunch call just to keep each other informed, and that's invaluable because it means I'm quite tuned in on what's happening. When I've been a CEO myself, I've said, don't make any surprises for the board. You want to keep at least the chair apprised of any unusual developments so that they can help you steer this through the next board meeting. So you keep each other informed on what's up, what problems are arising, what successes are there. You do that once a week. And that can be a short meeting, but once a week is quite good because it ensures that you're always on top of things. So that's one thing. The other thing is, of course, we quickly react with each other generally that's on WhatsApp or some kind of messenger. If something urgent happens, we're both quite available and are quick to respond. And of course, I prioritize messages from the CEO towards other messages because I know she wouldn't contact me if it wasn't important. And I try to then act quickly if needed. So that's important. For the meetings, I think well-prepared meetings are quite important. The agenda setting, it's a mix. Generally, I ask her to make a proposal, and then I go through it and look at if something's missing or if I want to make a special emphasis on something. So she presents a proposal to me of the agenda, and of course she prepares most of the documents. I prepare some of them. I'm a bit of a stickler that I want to make sure that the documents are there in advance and also that I've had a quick look at them before they go to the board. And that's invaluable because if both the board chair and the CEO know what they're talking about, know what points are on the agenda, and have both seen the documents and so on, that's really, really important because then you can really navigate even difficult issues at a board meeting.
Well, your collaborative leadership is evident as we're having this conversation. And, again, just to point out, the board hires the CEO. And technically, this is a board meeting that the staff attends, not a staff meeting that the board attends. But it works best when everybody's working well together, as Martin is describing for us here. How often does your board meet throughout the course of the year?
We generally meet between 4 to 6 times, but it's depending a bit on what's up and what's happening. So if there are exciting things happening or some emergencies, then we'll have a quick meeting in between. That's really changed during COVID and afterwards because we've moved to a lot of virtual meetings. And of course, having a quick virtual meeting is very easy. We do try to have at least 2 in-person meetings, particularly, and I really always try to have at least 1 strategy meeting a year, which is a day or a day and a half to really be on site and really discuss things through. What are we planning to do for the next 2 or 3 years? What are the main issues that we really need to attack? So that's the meetings. I really don't think, aside from the good preparations, the meetings also have a lot to do with chemistry. So it has to do with allowing board members to also prepare something and not just doing everything yourself, which is something I have to work on because I like to work and I let other people do things too. So that's important. But it's also make sure to have some pauses, to have some breaks, as in any good meetings. Have some coffee, have some tea, have some snacks. Bring in some jokes from your last or some experiences from your last trip, some pictures and so on. It's those kind of things that build also a personal relationship among the board and not just a technical work relationship.
So much wonderful guidance, Martin. Thank you so much. And the fundraisers in our audience are saying then that leads to the most important question. And the most important question is, what does this mean for fundraising? As the board is coordinated under the board chair's leadership and working in wonderful collaboration with a talented CEO, can you just describe maybe when you first joined the board and what you see now years later on what this strong board chair CEO relationship means for fundraising for the German Fundraising Association?
Well, I think we're not a classical fundraising association in the sense that we get a lot of our money, not so much from fundraising, but from membership fees, from conference fees, and so on. But we do have a small portion of fundraising also from donors, and actually that is something that we actually developed that hadn't existed before. There had been no grants, there had been no government or state monies and there had been no private donations either by foundations or by persons. And I think one of the most fun things has been also getting fundraisers to fundraise for their own association, because it's not self-evident that a professional organization like the German Fundraising Association should receive donations. But we developed aspects that need fundraising, for example, supporting young colleagues who are coming to their first conference and who cannot afford the conference fee. That's a great thing to fundraise for, and that really got people going. And something I learned in the US, the board has to step ahead. So I insisted to all my board members, and I said, we're all going to donate to this fund. I don't care how much you donate, but there's got to be some money from you there. So sometimes you have to have that type of a bit more directive approach also towards the board and tell people what to do. But if you have a good relationship, people appreciate that because you're giving some direction.
Martin, thank you so much for taking time for us on the Fundraising Schools podcast. We've learned so much from you today that we can implement wherever our nonprofit is located in this wonderful world of ours. We appreciate your leadership in the philanthropic sector. And thanks again for sharing your time with us here on the First Day podcast from the Fundraising School.
Thank you. And I hope you also enjoy in the difficult times that some fundraisers are facing to work professionally, but also find time to enjoy what you're doing, because I think that's important. Keep the fun in fundraising and keep the fun also for volunteers in the board work. And even the staff should have some fun in their work. So that's important.
And I certainly saw that at your conference many times over. What a delight. Still has me smiling. And, if whether times are going well or it's a time of challenge, our board is always essential to our work. We teach this in so many of our courses, including a course specifically designated to board engagement with fundraising, one of more than 24 courses that we have, leading to 5 different certificates. We are in 10 U.S. cities. We're occasionally invited internationally to teach. And of course, no matter where you are in this great world of ours, we are available online in live virtual courses and in recorded asynchronous courses. We also have custom training that we can bring directly to your nonprofit, your region, your association, quarterly webinars, these weekly podcasts, and a textbook, Achieving Excellence in Fundraising, all available online at go.iu.edu/TFRS. for the Fundraising School. I'm grateful to Martin Georgi, our guest today, in a podcast produced by Mike Anthony and Jennifer Boffman. I'm Bill Stanczykiewicz. Now you are now more fully informed on this first day from the Fundraising School.